The shuttle doors opened and Danny Cole stepped onto Nexus Station for the first time. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet he could not name. Around him, dozens of alien species walked through the massive arrival hall. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had too many legs or too many eyes. Danny kept his face calm and followed the signs toward the Galactic Rangers Orientation Center. He was 28 years old. Before this, he had spent 6 years doing search and rescue work in the mountains back on Earth. He had pulled hikers from frozen rivers. He had carried injured climbers down cliff faces in the dark. He had crawled into collapsed buildings after earthquakes. None of that mattered here. To the galactic community, humans were newcomers. Earth was just another death world, and humans were just another primitive species trying to prove they belonged among the stars. The orientation center was a circular room with seats, arranged in rising rows. Danny found a spot near the back and sat down. There were maybe 40 other trainees in the room. Most of them were aliens. He counted only 3 other humans. One of them, a tall man with red hair, caught his eye and nodded. Danny nodded back. A door at the front of the room opened, and several figures walked in. The first was a 6-limbed insectoid creature with silver markings on its shell. This was Mentor Yulan, according to the briefing files Danny had studied. Behind Yulan came a massive creature that looked like a bear crossed with a lizard. Its shoulders were as wide as a doorway. Its eyes were small and dark and missed nothing. Danny recognized the species from his research. This was a Kralith, one of the apex hunters, the galaxy's most feared predators. The last figure to enter was tall and covered in green scales. She moved like water, smooth and fast. Her eyes were yellow with slit pupils, and when she smiled, Danny saw rows of sharp teeth. This was a Selvari. Her name tag read Rexia Thorne, Senior Ranger. Mentor Yulan began speaking in a clicking voice that the translator in Danny's ear turned into flat English words. The mentor welcomed them to the program. The mentor explained the rules and expectations. The mentor said that not all of them would pass. Danny listened carefully. He took mental notes. He did not speak. Then Rexia Thorne stepped forward. "I see we have some humans this cycle," she said. Her voice was smooth and cold. She looked directly at Danny as she spoke. "How wonderful! More soft little prey animals playing at being hunters." Some of the alien trainees laughed. The Kralith in the corner did not laugh. He simply watched. Rexia walked closer to Danny's row. Her claws clicked on the metal floor with each step. "Tell me, human," she said, "what natural weapons do you have? Do you have claws?" She held up her own hand, showing 4 curved claws that could cut through steel. "Do you have fangs?" She smiled wider, showing those rows of teeth. "Do you have armor? Venom? Anything at all?" Danny looked at her. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply met her eyes and said, "No." "No," Rexia repeated. She turned to the other trainees. "At least it is honest. Humans have nothing. They come from a death world, yes, but they survived it through luck and numbers. They breed fast and die easy. That is their only skill." More laughter from the room. Danny said nothing. Rexia seemed annoyed by his silence. She leaned closer. "Do you have anything to say, trainee?" "I am here to learn," Danny said quietly, "and to help people." Rexia laughed. It was not a kind sound. Help people. How noble. How foolish. She turned away from him and returned to the front of the room. "Watch this one fail, everyone. It will be entertaining." The orientation continued. Danny listened to the rest of the briefing. He memorized the schedule. He noted the locations of training facilities and medical bays. When the session ended, He stood and walked toward his assigned quarters without speaking to anyone. A voice stopped him in the hallway. "Danny Cole?" He turned. A human woman was walking toward him. She had short brown hair and tired eyes. Her uniform marked her as a liaison officer. "I am Katie Moore," she said. "Human liaison for this station. I wanted to warn you about Rexia." "I noticed her," Danny said. Katie smiled, but there was no humor in it. "She has ruined the careers of 12 human trainees before you. She finds ways to break them. Some she humiliates until they quit. Some she pushes until they make mistakes that get them expelled. She hates humans. No one knows why." Danny nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me. What will you do?" Katie asked. Danny thought about it. He thought about the mountains back home. He thought about the frozen rivers and the collapsed buildings and the people he had carried out of the darkness. He thought about why he had come here. "I am not here for a career," he said finally. "I am here to help people. If she wants to mock me, she can mock me. It does not change why I am here." Katie studied his face for a long moment. "You are different from the others," she said. "They all came here to prove something, to show that humans belong." "I already know humans belong," Danny said. "I do not need to prove it to her." He nodded to Katie and continued walking toward his quarters. Behind him, in the shadows of a side corridor, the Kralith commander watched him go. Zorath had seen many trainees come through this program. He had seen warriors and hunters and killers from 100 different worlds. He knew how to spot the dangerous ones. This human did not look dangerous. He was not tall. He was not muscular. He had no claws, no fangs, no armor. But there was something in his eyes. Something quiet and patient. Something that reminded Zorath of the old stories his people told about the creatures they feared most. Not the fastest creatures. Not the strongest creatures. The ones that simply did not stop. Zorath made a note on his datapad and walked away. The training began the next morning. Danny woke early, ate a simple meal in the cafeteria, and reported to the evaluation grounds. The other trainees were already there. Rexia stood at the front with Mentor Yulan and 2 other senior rangers. The first test was speed. Trainees had to run through a course filled with obstacles. Walls to climb, gaps to jump, tunnels to crawl through. The fastest time would be recorded and ranked. Rexia went first. She moved like lightning. Her claws dug into walls and launched her forward. Her powerful legs carried her over gaps that seemed impossible. She finished the course in 43 seconds. The other trainees clapped and hissed their approval. When Danny's turn came, Rexia smiled. Danny ran the course. He was not fast. He climbed walls with careful movements. He jumped gaps with steady precision. He crawled through tunnels without rushing. He finished in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. "Pathetic," Rexia announced to everyone. "The human is 5 times slower than me. How will it catch criminals? How will it save anyone?" Danny said nothing. He walked to the side and waited for the next test. The second test was strength. Trainees had to lift heavy objects and carry them across a marked distance. The weights were adjusted for each species, but the results were still ranked. Rexia lifted her assigned weight easily. Her muscles moved under her scales like cables of steel. She carried the weight across the line without slowing down. Danny lifted his weight. It was heavy. His arms shook. His legs burned. But he carried it across the line. He placed in the bottom third of the rankings. "Weak," Rexia said loudly. "Humans are weak. Everyone knows this. Why does the council waste resources training them?" Danny wiped sweat from his face and said nothing. The third test was combat simulation. Trainees entered a virtual arena and fought against holographic enemies. Points were awarded for defeating enemies quickly and efficiently. Rexia was deadly. She moved through the simulation like a storm of claws and teeth. She defeated 37 enemies in the time limit. It was the highest score of the day. Danny entered the same simulation. He fought carefully. He used the environment to his advantage. He avoided direct confrontation when possible. He defeated 19 enemies. A middle-ranked score. Rexia made sure everyone heard her laughter. The days continued like this. Every test, Rexia made a point of comparing her scores to Danny's. Every time she beat him, she announced it to the group. The other trainees began to look at Danny with pity or contempt. But Mentor Yulan noticed something. On the 5th day, the trainees faced an endurance evaluation. They had to run on a moving track until they could not run anymore. The track would record how long each trainee lasted and how far they traveled. Rexia ran for 2 hours. It was an impressive time. Most of the other trainees lasted between 1 and 3 hours. The Kralith commander, who was observing that day, lasted 4 hours before stepping off the track. Danny started running. 1 hour passed. 2 hours. 3. Rexia finished her post-evaluation meal and returned to watch. The human was still running. 4 hours. 5 hours. 6. Other trainees stopped what they were doing. They gathered around the track. The human was still running. His face was red. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His breathing was heavy, but his legs kept moving. 7 hours. 8 hours. Mentor Yuan checked the medical readouts. The human's heart rate was elevated but stable. His body temperature was high but within safe limits. He was suffering. That was clear. But he was not stopping. 9 hours. Rexia stepped forward. "This is pointless," she said loudly. "So the human can run slowly for a long time. What good is that? Being able to run away slowly is not a useful skill." Danny heard her. He did not respond. He kept running. 10 hours. Mentor Yulan finally stopped the test. "Enough," the mentor said. "You have proven your point, Trainee Cole." Danny stepped off the track. His legs were shaking. He could barely stand. But he looked at the scoreboard and saw his name at the top of the endurance rankings. Far above everyone else. Rexia made a dismissive sound. Endurance means nothing in real combat. When criminals are shooting at you, running for 10 hours will not save you. She walked away. Most of the other trainees followed her, but Commander Zoreth did not leave. That night, Danny went to the gym. His body was exhausted, but he could not sleep. He found an empty corner and began stretching. Then he started doing simple exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, squats. He did not count. He just kept going. An hour passed. Then another. The gym door opened. Heavy footsteps approached. Danny looked up and saw Commander Zoreth standing over him. The Kralith was massive. His shadow covered Danny completely. "You should rest," Zoreth said. His voice was deep and rough. "I will," Danny said. Soon, Zoreth watched him do another set of push-ups. "Why do you push yourself so hard? You know you cannot beat the Selvari in speed or strength. You know she will mock you no matter what you do." Danny finished his set and sat back on his heels. "I am not trying to beat her." "Then what are you trying to do?" Danny thought about the question. "Back on Earth," he said slowly, "I worked in rescue, mountains, disasters, emergencies. The job was never about being the fastest or the strongest. It was about being the one who was still moving when everyone else stopped." Zoreth was silent for a long moment. "My people have a word," he said finally. "For creatures like you, what does it mean?" Zoreth's small dark eyes studied Danny's face. "I will tell you someday. When you earn it." The Kralith turned and walked away. Danny watched him go. Then he turned back to his exercises and kept going. The alarm came 3 weeks into training Danny was in the middle of a navigation exercise when the emergency lights started flashing. Red warnings appeared on every screen. A voice announced that all available rangers were needed for an emergency rescue operation. The trainees gathered in the main briefing room. Commander Zorath stood at the front with Mentor Yulan and several senior rangers, including Rexia Thorn. "A colony transport ship has sent a distress signal," Zorath said. His deep voice filled the room. "The ship is called the Wandering Star. It carries 200 colonists, including children. The ship has become trapped in the Kilos asteroid field. Its engines are damaged. Its life support is failing." He brought up a holographic display showing the ship. It was a large vessel, but it looked small among the massive rocks floating around it. "The asteroid field makes large-scale rescue impossible," Zorath continued. "We cannot bring our main ships close enough. We will send small shuttle teams to board the Wandering Star and evacuate the survivors." Mentor Yulan stepped forward. "This is a real emergency. Trainees will accompany senior rangers for support and observation. This is not a test. People will die if we fail." Danny felt his heart beat faster. This was what he had trained for. This was why he was here. Rexia Thorn raised her hand. "I will lead one of the boarding teams. I request the human trainee Cole for my squad." Mentor Yulan looked surprised. "You want the human?" Rexia smiled with all her teeth. "I want him to see what real rangers do. Perhaps he will learn something." Danny knew she wanted him there to humiliate him, to show him how useless he was in a real crisis. But he did not care. 200 people needed help. "I will go," he said. The shuttle ride to the asteroid field took 2 hours. Danny sat in the back with 3 other team members. There was a Morvith pilot, a Kralith medic named Torek, and a small furry creature called a Ven who handled communications. Rexia sat at the front and did not speak to any of them. When they reached the Wandering Star, Danny saw the damage through the shuttle window. The ship's hull had been torn open in several places. Debris floated around it like a cloud of broken dreams. Emergency lights flickered inside. The shuttle docked with an airlock on the ship's upper section. Rexia led the team inside. The interior of the ship was a nightmare. The lights were dim. The air was thin and cold. Somewhere in the distance, Danny could hear people screaming. "Life support is failing in multiple sections," the Ven reported, checking a scanner. "Main corridors are blocked by debris. The survivors are trapped in the lower cargo hold." Rexia moved fast. She led the team through corridors filled with floating wreckage. Twice they had to cut through sealed doors. Once they had to climb through a hole in the floor where the deck had collapsed. Then they reached the problem. The path to the lower cargo hold went through a section of maintenance shafts. These shafts were narrow, barely wide enough for a human to crawl through, and they were filled with a yellow-green gas that leaked from broken pipes. "Toxin analysis," Rexia ordered. The Ven scanned the gas. Methane compound mixed with industrial coolant vapor. Highly toxic to Selvari, Morvith, Kralith, and Ven biology. Exposure of more than 30 seconds will cause respiratory failure. Rexia hissed in frustration. "Is there another path?" "No. The other routes are completely blocked. This is the only way to reach the survivors." Through the maintenance shaft, Danny could hear voices, crying, coughing, people calling for help. "We need to find cutting equipment," Rexia said. "We can remove the pipes and vent the gas into space. It will take time, but it is the only way." "How much time?" Danny asked. The Ven checked the readings. 3 hours minimum. But the life support in the cargo hold will fail in 90 minutes. Silence fell over the team. 200 people. 90 minutes. No way to reach them. Danny looked at the maintenance shaft. It was about 50 meters long. The gas was thick inside, but he could see the other end where clean air waited. Humans, he said quietly. What does that gas do to humans? The Ven looked at him. Checking. A pause. Humans can tolerate short-term exposure. 5 to 7 minutes before serious damage begins. But the shaft is 50 meters. Even at top speed, it would take several minutes to crawl through. And to crawl back, you would need to hold your breath. Humans can hold their breath for 2 to 3 minutes under stress. It is possible, but the cumulative exposure would build. Each trip would damage your lungs more. After 4 or 5 trips, you would likely die. Danny started removing his equipment, his armor, his pack, his weapons, everything that would slow him down. Rexia watched him with narrow eyes. What are you doing? Someone has to go through, Danny said. I am the only one who can survive the gas. You heard the Ven. You will die in there. Danny looked at her. Maybe, maybe not. But those people will definitely die if no one tries. He finished stripping down to just his basic uniform. He took several deep breaths, filling his lungs with clean air. Human, Rexia said. There was something strange in her voice. Danny, this is foolish. You will not make it. Danny smiled slightly. It was the first time she had used his name. Watch me, he said. He took one last deep breath and crawled into the shaft. The gas burned. Danny felt it the moment he entered the shaft. Even holding his breath, the toxin seeped through his skin and stung his eyes. Tears blurred his vision. He blinked them away and kept crawling. The shaft was dark and narrow. His shoulders scraped against the walls. Broken pipes dripped with the yellow-green poison. He moved as fast as he could, pulling himself forward with his arms, pushing with his legs 30 meters. His lungs started to ache. His body screamed for air. 40 meters. The ache became pain. The pain became fire. 50 meters. He burst out of the shaft into the cargo hold and gasped for breath. The air was thin and stale, but it was clean. He coughed and spat and wiped the tears from his eyes. Around him, 200 colonists stared in shock. They were huddled together in the center of the hold. Men, women, children. Some were injured. Some were crying. All of them looked terrified. A man stepped forward. He was older, with gray hair and a cut on his forehead. Who are you? How did you get here? Galactic Rangers, Danny said between coughs. Rescue team. I'm going to get you out of here. Through that? The man pointed at the maintenance shaft. That gas is poison. We tried to go through. 2 of our people died. Humans can survive it, Danny said. Short term. I will carry people through one at a time. The man's eyes went wide. That is insane. You will kill yourself. Danny looked at the crowd. He saw children clinging to their parents. He saw elderly colonists struggling to breathe in the thin air. He saw fear in every face. Start with the children, he said. Smallest ones first. Tell them to hold their breath and close their eyes. He did not wait for an answer. He walked to the nearest family and knelt down. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, stared at him with huge eyes. Hi, Danny said. I am Danny. I am going to carry you to safety. Can you hold your breath for me? Like a game? The girl nodded slowly. Danny picked her up, held her tight against his chest, and crawled back into the shaft. The second trip was harder than the first. His lungs already hurt from the first exposure. The gas seemed thicker this time. The little girl trembled in his arms, but she kept her eyes closed and held her breath like he told her. They made it through. Danny handed the girl to Rexia, who stood at the entrance with wide eyes. Keep her warm, Danny said. I'm going back. You are bleeding, Rexia said. She pointed at his nose. Blood was dripping down his face. Danny wiped it away. I know. He turned and crawled back into the shaft. The third trip, he carried a young boy. The fourth, an elderly woman who could not walk. The fifth, a teenager with a broken arm. After each trip, Danny emerged coughing blood. His skin turned pale. His hands started shaking. But each time, he turned around and went back. The Kraloth medic, Tarek, tried to stop him after the eighth trip. You need rest. Your body is breaking down. The toxin levels in your blood are approaching lethal limits. Danny looked at him. How many people are still in there? Tarek checked the count. 173. Then I'm not done. He went back in. Rexia watched through a camera drone she had sent into the cargo hold. She saw Danny emerge each time, barely able to stand. She saw him pick up another person. She saw him smile at frightened children to calm them down. She saw him whisper to himself as he crawled through the poison dot. She turned up the audio on the drone. Danny was saying names. The names of everyone he had already saved. He was counting them, using them to keep himself moving. Lily, Marcus, Elena, Tomas, Grandma Yuki, Kevin, Sasha, Peter, the twins, Maria. Over and over. A list of lives. A reason to keep going. By the 15th trip, Danny could barely see. The toxin had damaged his eyes. He navigated the shaft by memory and touch. His arms felt like they were filled with broken glass. His lungs made a wet sound when he breathed. By the 20th trip, he was vomiting blood between runs. He would finish a trip, hand off the survivor, fall to his knees, throw up blood and bile, wipe his mouth, and go back. The other team members watched in silence. No one tried to stop him anymore. This is impossible, the Ven whispered. His body should have failed hours ago. How is he still moving? Rexia did not answer. She could not take her eyes off the monitor. By the 25th trip, Danny was carrying 2 children at once. He reasoned that smaller bodies meant less weight. It was a gamble. The shaft was not wide enough for 3 people. He had to move slower, more carefully. He made it. By the 30th trip, there were only elderly colonists and injured adults left. They were heavier. Danny moved slower. But he did not stop. By the 40th trip, there were 3 people left. Danny could not stand anymore. He crawled out of the shaft on his hands and knees. Blood poured from his nose and mouth. His skin had turned gray. His eyes were red and swollen. Tarek grabbed him. You cannot go back. You will die. Danny looked up at him. 3 people. You will die. Danny smiled. It was a terrible smile, full of blood and pain. Then I better hurry. He crawled back into the shaft. When he emerged the final time, carrying the last survivor on his back. Danny Cole collapsed. He did not move. Tarek rushed forward and began emergency treatment. Rexia stood frozen, staring at the human's broken body. The colonists who could still walk gathered around, crying and praying and calling out thanks. Is he alive? Rexia asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tarek checked his readings. A long pause. Then, yes, barely. We need to get him to the station immediately. As they loaded Danny onto a stretcher, Rexia heard the colonists talking. They were calling him something. The unstoppable human. The one who would not quit. The thing that does not stop. Danny woke up in the medical bay 5 days later. The first thing he saw was white ceiling tiles. The second thing he saw was Commander Zorath sitting in a chair beside his bed. The massive Kraloth was reading something on a datapad. When Danny stirred, Zorath looked up. You are awake, Zorath said. The doctor said he might not wake up at all. Danny tried to speak, but his throat was dry and raw. Zorath handed him a cup of water. Danny drank slowly. The colonists, Danny managed to say. Did they all make it? All 200, Zorath said. Thanks to you. Danny closed his eyes. Relief washed through him like warm water. Good. Zorath set down his datapad. Your lungs are permanently scarred. The toxin damaged your eyes. You will need glasses or corrective surgery. Your liver and kidneys are functioning but weakened. You will never be as strong as you were before. Danny nodded slowly. Was it worth it? Zorath stared at him. You are asking me? I am asking myself. Danny looked at his hands. They were covered in bandages. 200 people. Permanent damage to my body. Was it worth it? He thought about it. He thought about the little girl who held her breath so bravely. He thought about the old woman who thanked him with tears in her eyes. He thought about the teenager with the broken arm who told him he wanted to be a ranger someday. Yes, Danny said. It was worth it. Zorath made a sound. It might have been a laugh. Humans are strange creatures. I have heard that before. My people have a word, Zorath said. I told you I would share it when you earned it. Do you remember? Danny remembered. The gym. The late-night training. The Kraleth watching him with those small, dark eyes. I remember. Zorath leaned forward. The word is Rethnok. In your language, it means something like the thing that does not stop. Among my people, it is the highest compliment we can give to another creature. Danny blinked. I thought the Kraleth were the apex hunters, the most feared predators in the galaxy. We are, Zorath said. But we earned that title because we learned something important long ago. The most dangerous creature is not the one with the sharpest claws or the strongest muscles. It is the one that keeps coming no matter what you do to it. The one that will not stop, will not quit, will not give up until it achieves its goal or dies trying. He placed a heavy hand on Danny's shoulder. Humans are Rethnok. Your entire species. You do not have claws or fangs or armor. You do not have venom or speed or strength. But you have something more terrifying. You have the will to keep going when everything says you should stop. Danny did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as terrifying. Zorath stood up. Rest now. You have earned it. The Kraleth walked to the door, then paused and looked back. The Selvari female, Rexia. She has been waiting outside since you arrived. She has not slept. She has not eaten. She just sits and waits. He left without another word. Danny stared at the door for a long moment. Then he pressed the button to allow visitors. Rexia Thorn walked in slowly. She looked different. Smaller somehow. Her usual confidence was gone. She approached his bed and stood there, not speaking, not meeting his eyes. Finally, she said, I watched the footage from your helmet camera. Danny waited. I saw everything. I saw you vomiting blood and going back in. I saw you counting names to keep yourself moving. I saw you smile at children while your body was dying. Her voice cracked. Danny had never heard her sound like that. I have been a ranger for 40 cycles. I have fought criminals and monsters and armies. I thought I knew what courage looked like. She finally met his eyes. I was wrong. Danny shook his head slowly. I did what anyone would do. No. Rexia stepped closer. No one else could have done what you did. I could not have done it. Commander Zorath could not have done it. Only a human could have done it. And even among humans, I think you are special. She took a deep breath. I mocked you because I did not understand you. I called humans weak because you do not have natural weapons. I called you prey animals because you do not look like predators. She looked down at her claws. I was a fool. Danny reached out and touched her arm. It was strange to feel those scales under his bandaged fingers. You were not wrong, he said. Humans are weak. We are soft. We die easily. But that is exactly why we try so hard. Because we know how fragile we are. Because we know how precious life is. Rexia looked at him with something new in her yellow eyes. Something like wonder. Why did you keep going? She asked. You knew it was killing you. Why did you not stop? Danny thought about the question. He thought about Earth. He thought about the mountains and the rivers and the collapsed buildings. He thought about everyone he had ever saved and everyone he had ever lost. On Earth, we have an old saying, he said. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. 200 lives mattered more than my pain, more than my fear, more than my life. He squeezed her arm gently. Humans are not special because we are strong. We are special because we choose to sacrifice for others. That is who we are. That is what we do. Rexia was silent for a long time. Then she did something Danny had never seen a Sylvari do. She bowed her head. Teach me, she said quietly. Teach me how to be like that. Teach me how to be the thing that does not stop. Danny smiled. For the first time since he woke up, he felt like everything was going to be okay. 1 week later, Danny was promoted from trainee to full ranger. The ceremony was small but meaningful. Commander Zorath pinned the badge to his chest. Mentor Yulan clicked approval. Katie Moore wiped tears from her eyes. After the ceremony, Rexia approached the assignment officer and made a request. I want to be assigned as Ranger Cole's partner. The officer looked surprised. You? With the human? But you always said humans were... I know what I said. Rexia cut him off. I was wrong. Now I want to learn from him. The officer shrugged and processed the request. From across the room, Danny watched her. He remembered the day he arrived, when she had mocked him in front of everyone. He remembered her words, soft little prey animals playing at being hunters. Now she was asking to work beside him. He walked over to her. Partner. She turned to face him. Partner, are you sure about this? I am still slow. I am still weak. I am still just a human. Rexia smiled. It was different from her old smile, warmer, kinder. That is exactly why I want to learn from you, she said. Being slow and weak and human did not stop you. Nothing stopped you. She held out her clawed hand. Show me how. Danny took her hand and shook it. Behind them, Commander Zorath watched and nodded. The galaxy was a big place, full of dangers and wonders and creatures beyond imagination. But somewhere among the stars, there was a human who would not stop. And now, there was a Sylvari who wanted to learn his secret. It was a good start.